The journey that we are on is how does Internet of Things, IoT, transform the industrial world of IoT?
This is not your father's internet. When we first started experimenting with the internet, I can remember being concerned about sending a 16 KB file across the internet, if that was good etiquette behavior or not.
With the world of IoT, we have a 24/7 connection with the customer, so we can provide value to the customer on a continuous basis.
As these new technologies create new capabilities, we're also seeing new entrants who are thinking about the business differently. And so you start to see people selling an outcome versus a piece of equipment. So I'm going to sell you a piece of equipment that is guaranteed a certain amount of time to be up, 95% uptime or even higher. I think the technology aspect is fascinating, but I really think the business model shift is going to be just as exciting.
Some of the big challenges we face as we look at this digital transformation is cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is something that has to be built in from the ground up, aka right into the control system itself. And you have to embed it not just in software but in hardware.
I think cybersecurity is an extremely important, perhaps the most important issue facing the world of industrial IoT. And all it takes is one bad attack and the entire industry will just pull back and say, we are not going to connect our systems to IoT.
Not that long ago, security was handled in a way that we called security by obscurity because the devices weren't connected. Now, as we think about what we need to move forward in the Internet of Things, we're needing intrinsic security, secure keys and cryptography baked into the silicon, linked into the software, so it becomes very, very difficult to hack into.
What is it going to take for the process industries to accept IIoT? Many of them are what we call boomable. They can explode if things go wrong. They're exothermic reactions that if they get out of control can cause devastation. And many of them are critical infrastructure. If I look at things like gas pipelines, oil pipelines, product pipelines, transmission and distribution networks for electricity, those things are defined as critical infrastructure, and loss of those things could be catastrophic for the community in general.
That's why security is paramount. People need to look at security as a whole system. It can't be one link in the chain. They got to look at the whole chain and then stitch it together to ensure they truly have a system that you can manage the risk associated with penetration.
One way is certainly to have the Internet of Things installed basically in parallel with the critical control systems without having too strong a connection between them or only a one-way connection of information from the control system going to the IoT world for data analysis and not vice versa. Over time, we will see a convergence of these worlds.
When people talk about security from a broad basis, a lot of times you'll hear things like identity theft. People are worried about access to information. In the consumer world, it's absolutely true. When you're talking about worlds like industrial, the focus is really on security, not identity. The challenge is all those domains require safety. Things can't be safe if they're not secure. And the biggest risk point is that people can intrude on a system and change the behavior of that system such that there's a catastrophic failure, and the outcome of that could be economic impact, or in the cases of a lot of environments, it could be injury or even death to people.
Some of the great things that I think will come through the digital transformation in the industrial space is just, frankly, systems that are smarter, systems that are easier to set up, systems that allow additional capabilities to be rolled out for our customers. Right now, most of this control systems and platforms that are out there in the industrial space are very closed, and this is going to drive a push towards more open systems, more capable systems that a customer can get his fingers into and customize for efficiency or whatever he's looking for within the bounds of his control.
So what's really exciting is to see the IT industry, the technology companies, the network providers, and the traditional industrial OEMs all working together to tackle these challenges through consortiums like the Industrial Internet Consortium, and it's this cross-group collaboration that's super exciting, and I think that's how the challenges are ultimately going to get addressed.
The challenge with data is not data itself. There's plenty of data. There always has been plenty of data. The biggest thing is how do you turn that data into knowledge? Then how do you use that knowledge to drive business decisions? So the continuum folks are on now is how do you use it to be more reactive, move from there to be proactive, and ultimately be predictive? How can you start to predict failures and get ahead of the curve? Next step is even more interesting, is how do you actually use data to start to do optimization? And this is where things like machine learning come in, where you can start to really look at changing behavior to change outcomes. That's where it gets really exciting.